Here is my staff tracking spreadsheet. It is fairly large, spanning several columns and several rows. I don't normally like printing a spreadsheet, but there are occasions that it is necessary. A good rule of thumb is to always do a print preview before printing. Why? You want to make sure that it will actually print the way that you want it to. It's easy to waste paper when printing from Excel. In this video, I am primarily going to make my changes from the backstage view. Let's go to Print Preview by selecting File, Print. Notice that there are 4 pages. If I scroll through the pages, I see this is not how I want it printed. Let's look at 4 quick things we can do to get a good print out of the data. So the first thing I want to do is change my page orientation. Right now it's in portrait and I want to change this to landscape orientation. Usually when you are printing from Excel, because we tend to have a lot of columns in our data, landscape is going to be the most common orientation that you want. So now that I've changed it to the landscape, I still have 1 of 4 pages. Still not quite what I want. So what I'm going to do is show margins. And I can manually adjust my margins. Now I'm fitting a few more columns on here. It looks like I still have 1 of 4 pages. See what that looks like. So I have these 2 columns just hanging out, and I probably don't want to push out my margins anymore. So let's look at scaling. By default, there is no scaling. I'm going to click this drop down arrow, Fit Sheet on 1 page. That shrinks the printout so it all fits on 1 page. Let's take a look at that. Wow, that's going to be pretty small, so I don't think that's what I want. If I were to print this out, the font would be too small and I really wouldn't be able to read this. So how about fit all columns on 1 page? Now I only had those 2 columns hanging out that wouldn't fit, so this might actually work for me. I can see that I have 1 of 2 pages. And that looks pretty good. One thing that I do want to make sure of, I'm going to go to Page Setup here, and I can see in my Page Setup dialog box, it has fit to 1 page, and it's been adjusted to 84% of normal size. Now the reason I want to double check what this has been shrunk down to, adjusted to, is because if this is adjusted too small, just like when we saw when it tried to fit it all on 1 page, the font was going to be too small when it printed out. So a good thing to keep in mind is you really do not want this to be below 70-75%. Basically, when you print that out and it's 65-70%, you're looking at a 6-point or 7-point font size, and that's just really too small when you print. So 84 is pretty decent, and I can leave it like this. I think that looks pretty good, 1 of 2 pages. But what I'm noticing at the top of my 2nd page is I don't have my titles, my headings aren't here. So this would be kind of annoying if I printed this out. I would have to flip back to page 1 to see what are these different headings. I can't remember. So I want to add print titles. Here I do have to go back to the ribbon to be able to do this. I'm going to go to Page Layout tab, Print Titles, and Rows to Repeat at the top. I'm going to click right here, and I want to repeat row 1. So I'm not selecting a range. Notice how my arrow is just pointing to the right, so I couldn't select a range even if I wanted to. I'm simply selecting the entire column 1. So now I'm going to go back to Print Preview. Now when I go to page 2, I have my headings at the top. So if this worksheet kept growing, I had more rows, let's say this was going to be 4, 5, 10 pages, I wouldn't have to keep flipping back. I would have my headings at the top of every page. Okay, so that was a quick review of how to modify your worksheet. We discussed page orientation, margins, scaling, and print titles. Thank you for watching.